Hello folks, my name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. How you guys doing? My peoples, where you at? Got a pretty crazy subject for today's video, which is kind of insane. You don't usually see stories like this. And I'm talking about the terrorist attack that Israel launched on Lebanon this past week. So what happened? What's the story? So it all kind of started back in February of 2024. After a memo went out among members of Hezbollah that they were going to stop using things like cell phones and they were going to downgrade their communications networks. Now, where did all this come from? It's because the Israeli intelligence has a very huge capability of tracking people through their phones. They have two different systems here. The first one is called Pegasus. And Pegasus is a cell phone tracking kind of software. You have to actually remotely install it on your target's machine. You usually do this through sending them an email that, say, has a PDF or some other executable in it. And it's really no different than any kind of scam email that you may get. You know, you accidentally click on the PDF or whatever. It runs the malicious code and installs the spyware on the target's device. And then afterwards, you can basically own their phone. You can monitor their calls. You can read their text messages. You can get passwords. You can track where the phone is, stuff like that. That's the first system they have. The second one is actually called Tangles. And Tangles is a little bit different. It doesn't actually require you to install any code on somebody's phone. It just uses cell phone records and then matches that with data from social media in order to build a profile about where somebody goes, what their daily routine is, where they'll be at any given moment. That one is kind of crazy. It's like you can track anybody on Earth with that without even having to install anything on their phone. That's kind of nuts. So in order to combat this, starting earlier this year in February, Hezbollah switched over to a low-tech solution. They started using couriers, they started using things like walkie-talkies and also pagers. And that left them open to this very insane terrorist attack. So what happened exactly? The Israeli Mossad, that's the equivalent of the CIA in Israel, what they did is that they got a shipment of pagers and booby-trapped them. They put like plastic explosives with remote detonators next to the batteries, and then they used a shell company to sell these to Hezbollah, who then distributed them all to their members. And apparently, somebody in Hezbollah started getting wise as to what was going on with the pagers, and that's why they blew them all up last week. Like, apparently they've been kind of sitting on this for a little while, and then they got chatter that, hey, somebody figured it out, and so they decided to execute the attack before it was too late. But then I'm also reading that Hezbollah was distributing these pagers all the way up until the actual attack, so I'm not really sure how reliable that news report is. But that's pretty fucking crazy. So that happened on October 17th. The next day, on October 18th, they did another wave where they were using these walkie-talkies that they also booby-trapped. Blew those all up and killed a whole bunch of people. Well, here's the thing, right? So these guys are, Hezbollah. So they're legit targets. Hezbollah and Israel have essentially been in a low-key war ever since October 7th of last year. I mean, even before that, for years and years, they were kind of in a low-intensity conflict. The problem is that, well, not every person who was injured by this was actually a member of Hezbollah. So, in these two waves of explosions, 62 people were killed, which at least 12 of those people were civilians. But also 3,458 people were injured. So even though like some legit targets were actually caught, one of the guys they killed was a commander named Ibrahim Akil. And apparently this guy was involved in the 1983 bombing of the U.S. embassy in Beirut. So it's like, all right, well, that guy's a legit target, right? But not everybody else. Apparently there was a 9-year-old girl who was the daughter of one of these guys, and her father's pager started going off. She picked it up off the table and went to go bring it to him because he got a page, and then it blew up in her hands and killed her. There's civilian casualties here. There's videos of guys, they're like in public places, you know, like at a market or something like that, like an open air market, and it blows up and people are getting hit by the shrapnel. So not only does the target get killed, but all the people around them are getting injured. Not a good thing, you know. It's like this sort of indiscriminate attack like this. There's only one word for it. It's terrorism. It's really no different than blowing up a bomb in a public place, because that's essentially what it is, you know, bombing a public place. Even though it's only targeting one guy, everybody else around them also gets injured and killed. And who's to say that your target actually has the device in hand at that given time? Who's to say that it's not in a bag somewhere, or it's not, you know, being carried by their daughter or something like that? Pretty messed up kind of shit here. I'm reading articles about how this may be in violation of international law, but, you know, good luck ever like getting some justice for that. International law just doesn't really seem to apply to Israel. I mean, at least we don't hold them accountable for any of it, right? Like I said, Israel and Hezbollah, they've been in sort of a low-key war for years and years, which ramped up after the October 7th attacks in 2023. But up until this point, they've been keeping the level of violence below a full-scale war. You know, Israel will assassinate somebody, Hezbollah will shoot rockets off, blow up, you know, a bunch of stuff. Israel will retaliate by dropping bombs and killing a bunch of people in Lebanon, so on and so forth. Up until this point, it's just sort of been reciprocal. They haven't actually committed to a full-scale war, which is good. We don't want a full-scale war. That'll draw in Iran, I mean, not just Lebanon, it'll, you know, the Iranians will get involved, and it'll be a giant fucking mess out there. And the United States will inevitably be drawn into that huge fucking mess because Joe Biden refuses to actually hold Israel accountable for any of the damage that they're doing or any of the lives that they're taking. This event seems to have ramped that up a little bit. After these attacks, Israel then used warplanes to carry out dozens of strikes within Lebanon, and Hezbollah has fired rockets into Israel, and it's just gotten worse and worse. It's starting to escalate here. And that's the thing about this, right? Since October of 2023, some 96,000 people in northern Israel have been displaced because of these rocket attacks. They've had to leave their homes. And 111,000 people have been displaced in Lebanon because of Israel's attacks with warplanes and missiles and shit like that. It's not good either. Any way you look at it, it's a war. It's a war, and it's like bad news for everybody. War is never positive. There are no winners, not when it comes to the normal people that live in these countries, right? I mean, when you hear about this shit, you know, booby-trapped pagers. I mean, that's like supervillain kind of shit. You know what I mean? That's like something you would read in a James Bond novel. That's like something the Joker would do. Let's just kill random fucking people with pagers. Oh, do you have a pager that'll blow up? Who knows? It's kind of insidious and despicable. And I don't see how anybody can morally defend this. This to me, like, it really is no different than just setting off a bomb in a public place to just kill random people. I mean, you could argue that, oh, it's a little more targeted. Yeah, not really. If it was a little more targeted, 3,400 people wouldn't have been injured. 12 civilians wouldn't have been killed. You know, it's a little hard to defend assassinating members of Hezbollah. It's a little hard to defend that. But you can definitely speak out against innocent people getting killed and maimed and injured, and, you know, 9-year-old children getting caught in the crossfire. The October 7th attacks, okay, nobody can defend that. Nobody with a brain is going to defend that and say that was a positive thing. It's like, no, it's horrible, okay? That's the other way that I hear people defending this, you know, Israel's response to October 7th. The other way I hear people defending it is like, well, what would have happened if this would have been an attack that happened in the United States? What would they do? Would they just do nothing? No, there'd be a war. And that's correct. You can compare that to 9/11. You know, in 9/11, huge terrorist attack kills 3,000 people. What did the United States do? They went and they started a full-scale war, invaded 2 countries over that stuff. Killed hundreds of thousands of people. So I'm not trying to say my country is any better. I will say that was the wrong thing to do. That was the wrong response, and we shouldn't have done that. But I can't blame anyone in Israel for being angry or supporting military action after an attack like that. But what I can say is that this kind of thing is wrong. It's wrong to target civilians. Targeting civilians is wrong. The other thing I can say is like, well, when is it enough? Okay, so they went and they attacked people on October 7th. They killed 1,000 people. They took hostages, things like that. They terrorized people in Israel. Since then, the Israeli response in Gaza, there have been at least 41,000 deaths that we know of. According to what I was able to find online, the official number as of October 7th is 41,957 Palestinians dead. So when does that become enough? Like, at what point is it like, okay, we have enacted revenge? Like, when can you say that, all right, that's it, that's enough, these people have suffered enough, and it's time to end this? I suspect that answer to that is never. And that's what it kind of looks like right now. I suspect that it looks to me that Israel, under the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu, is never going to stop until everyone in Gaza is dead. And then after that, they're going to kill everyone in the West Bank. They've already invaded the West Bank. The West Bank had nothing to do with October 7th. Remember, the West Bank is governed by Hezbollah. Gaza is governed by Hamas. Those are 2 different governments there. 2 different groups that really don't get along with each other very much. And it's like, so it seems to me that we're at a point now where Israel is just basically using the October 7th attacks to enact its ethnic cleansing project. And if anybody objects to it, they just turn around and say, well, these people attacked us first. Okay, yeah, they did attack, right? I mean, if you want to say who attacked first, well, we could go back years and years. But yeah, the attack on October 7th, that was carried out by, Hamas or whatever. Does that mean that you are now allowed to kill everyone in Gaza? Because that's what's going on right now. It's an ethnic cleansing. That's what's happening in Gaza. We here in the United States just kind of ignored this. Our politicians just ignore it. And it's like, well, no, this is happening right under our nose, and it's happening with the support of our government. Are we just going to stand by and let this happen? We don't even bring this up. We have a president, Joe Biden, who's just basically surrendered to Israel and will just give them whatever they want. The Republican who is running for office has basically said that they haven't gone far enough. Donald Trump has basically said that if he gets to be president, he's going to go even more. He's going to give Israel carte blanche to essentially kill all of them, to commit genocide. I mean, they're already committing genocide. He will support them even more. That's what Donald Trump has basically said. He said he wants them to finish the job. But what does finishing the job mean? It means killing everyone. And the only voices who are standing against it are basically fucking useless. People like Jill Stein and the Green Party. They're fucking useless. They'll never get elected, and them running, which is their constitutional right to run for president or whatever, they're just enabling the fucking fascists in this country to take over and make it all worse. We have exactly one group in this country. Those are the undecideds. Those are the only people who are standing up for the Palestinians here. But even they understand that it's kind of hopeless. You're getting statements from the undecided movement saying, hey, we're not supporting Kamala Harris, but don't let Donald Trump get elected. Because they know it's a hopeless situation. They know that they have to settle for the lesser of 2 evils, but the lesser of 2 evils here isn't really going to give them what they want. I mean, I guess all we can really do is what we can do, which is elect the person, in this case, the Democrat, who we may be able to pressure and then after she's president, bring pressure to her. That's all we can really do here. But that doesn't stop the genocide. And that's the disgusting thing about this. It's like when you see this shit, you see this ridiculous supervillain shit, it should be very clear who the good guys and who the bad guys are when shit like this happens. You don't fucking bomb civilians. Like, if you see some shit like this and it's something out of a fucking Batman movie, those guys are the bad guys. I don't know. I just thought this disgusting because it's like, people are cracking jokes over this now. If any of my viewers here, if you guys are from other countries, I know a few of you are. The majority of my audience are Americans, but I know I do have some viewers in Europe, and occasionally I even get viewers from the Middle East. And I just want you guys to know, me personally, I find this shit disgusting. I know that if you go on American social media, the right wing is... They're making memes over this. They're cracking jokes about this. This is not funny. You know, these are people's fucking lives here, and it's like, it's really just disgusting how easy it is to dehumanize somebody. You know, even if they are terrorists. Okay, I'm not trying to say Hezbollah are nice people. They're not. They're not nice people. They've engaged in acts of terrorism themselves. That doesn't change the fact that these people didn't deserve that. That doesn't change the fact that there's civilians in Lebanon right now who didn't deserve what fucking happened to them. Because this fucking deranged comic book plot, like, it makes me sick to my stomach. I don't know. There are no winners sometimes, folks.
Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.